On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, 2 games in and everybody's talking about the same thing. How about those ads on the jerseys? Pretty crazy. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. And make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, X, Locked On Avalanche, Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, LockedOnAvalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and make sure you subscribe to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. When you do chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, we get your opinion on everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast. Joking, but what do you think of those? The ad, I kind of give the Avs credit for holding out this long. It just seems like so many teams have done it now. I was kind of hoping the Avs would just never do it, because you have $1 billion owner. Not like they really need it, but everybody's going in this direction, and the Avs finally caved.
Yeah, they don't bother me as bad. Like, it was like when the helmet ads came around. Like, everybody was kind of up and up, but about after 2 shifts, you forgot about them. And it was about the same with the jersey ad. I was just like, whatever.
Yeah, I've still maintained, as sacred as the hockey jersey is, just the look of an ad on the helmet, I think, is worse than the look of an ad where it is on the jersey. It's not too, taking over too much of the jersey. I get it. People don't like it. I don't like it either. But I just think the ads on the helmet just look so odd.
At least it's not visually distracting.
Yeah. So they went that route, and like I said, they held out for longer than I thought they would. So the jersey ads are here. But we're not here to talk about jersey ads, sir.
I would love to for 30 more minutes.
If that would be the biggest problem that we have right now, that would be a wonderful show. But no, the Avalanche have a much bigger problem right now, and that is clearly in goal. 2 games, 2 yanks for Alexandar Georgiev, and his replacement, and Justus Annunen didn't really seem to fare much better either right now. And we'll get to what Jared Bednar said in his press conference. But when you have these problems after 1 game, and you go out in the waiver wire and grab a goalie in Kaapo Kähkönen, I'm sorry, that is putting your goalies on notice, and that is saying, like, hey, like, we're gonna address this, and not saying this guy's coming in and just taking your jobs, but he's gonna push you, which is a good thing. Which is not a bad thing, but that happened in between game 1 and game 2. So if the motivation was there for these goalies to play better, it didn't work for 1 game because namely Alexandar Georgiev went out and just played another really bad game. There's nothing, and for the people who want to defend him, it's okay to defend him over the course of a full season, if you want to say that. But when a guy plays a bad game, you have to just come out and say he played a bad game. And you can't constantly throw it on defense. You can't constantly throw it on defenders that you don't like and say it's their fault and let him off the hook. It's just 2 games. And I will still go back to that. It is just 2 games. But it's the fact that it's the first 2 games of the season and he has looked bad. That's the long and the short of it. When you want a goalie, when you need a stop, you can get a stop. And the Avs are now doing this thing where it's like when they do something good on offense, which there's a lot of good on offense right now, they immediately the script gets flipped and they give up a goal or they get a penalty. I get it. It's the beginning of the season and you have to, that you need time to iron things out. But just when it looks this bad to start a season, it doesn't really make anybody really happy right now.
The problem the Colorado Avalanche are currently having with the goalie position is a twofold problem, and it's not going to improve itself unless the team really looks at themselves. With Georgiev, and this goes to Bednar's comments, but this is in Georgiev's mind. This is he's doubting himself. And guess what? You let up 3 goals on 9 shots. It's compacting. It's making it worse. And then he gets pulled and he sits there for the whole game and compacts and doubts and compacts and doubts. And the other half of this problem, what we were talking about on Friday's episode, when we said you should win this game, what was the thing we were saying? You must dictate the pace of this game. Guess what the Avalanche did not do? They did not dictate the pace of this game. Again, they were playing from behind and not taking the pressure off for their goalie, who was doubting himself and compacting on himself and making it harder on himself instead of getting out there on Nathan McKinnon Appreciation Night, getting out there and absolutely just blowing the doors off of Ball Arena. They again played down to Columbus and allowed Columbus to dictate that game from beginning to end, where again the Avalanche had to throw up this stat on the screen. They've won this many games from coming from behind, yada, yada, yada. The Avalanche must get out and ahead and hold the lead and just push all game long. They have not done that in such a long time.
I don't know, man. Like I can't fully agree with they're not dictating the pace of play, because I feel like I said, offensively, they're playing well. You've scored in both games. You've scored 4 goals
because they've had to survive. You got blown out 8-4, and then you got blown out 6-4. You have to survive.
You're not playing your style because you're right. You are playing from behind, so you do have to kind of change up your style a little bit. And as those games go on, and you're still behind, you have to play the top line more, which that doesn't help because you want to spread those minutes out. Not evenly. I'm not saying you get even minutes from the fourth line to the top line, but you have your style of play, and that you just have to get away from that. The Avs are okay doing that, and when your top guys are out there all the time, it's early in the season. It's not going to be so taxing on them right now, but it's not what you want to do. I get that, but I can't sit here and just because they lost the game and just say that they're not doing good things. They are, and especially offensively, I think individually there's some really good guys playing right now on the offensive end, and even defensively. I don't think they're playing. Yes, there's going to be plays where you would like back on the defensive end, but come on, the second and third goal Georgiev gave up, he has to stop those. You just absolutely have to stop those, and when you can't, you're getting pulled out. Because, like you said, 3 goals on 9 shots. Bednar wasn't waiting around anymore. It didn't translate into stopping the bleeding at all. But this one really just comes down to him. It does. For this one, it comes down to him. And I've been a Georgiev defender, but it's 2 games, and he has not looked good in 2 games.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you there, because if you listen to this show any amount of time, you understand I'm not the biggest Georgiev defender,
right?
And that would be the easy thing to jump on right now, and his time's coming. But again, like to the Avalanche, when they throw up that stat, I just kind of roll my eyes, because Chris, you mentioned all the time when they talk about, well, last year the Avs did this. This is not last year's team. This is 2 years into the campaign. This team has not come back and won anything yet, and like Georgiev has to stand up at some point. 3 goals on 9 shots is not acceptable, no matter what it is. Even if you're injured, Darcy Kemper barely kept his equipment together and put together better outings than that. Like, you've got to, Georgiev, this absolutely is a bad game. Games, plural.
Right.
But also, it's a whole team thing. And it has to improve. The whole team has to improve, because, again, we keep talking about last year's team and what they used to do. This isn't last year's team. This is the new season for the new Avalanche. And right now, it's not looking that great.
Well, it's funny you say that it's not looking that great, because, like I said, it's not last year's team, but I kind of like what this team is doing in some aspects. Last time I mentioned the expected goals and how I've never seen one like it was against Vegas. This one was pretty close to that as far as expected goals go. Avs with 4.03 expected goals, and that's what they got. And Columbus got 6, and they were expected 2.48. That tells the story, right? But what are the Avs doing well? I think their power play looks really good.
That's true.
Individually, I think Kovalenko is the real deal. I really like this dude's play. He got thrown up on that top line because Drouin is out. And he just seemed so comfortable there. So I really am looking forward to him playing the duration of this season. I don't think there's any concern with him. Like, oh, do we need to send him down? No, he's carved out a spot for himself. I know it's only 2 games, but God, like if that's his starting point, it's only going to progress from there. So I really like how he's playing. Middlestad's off to a good start.
Yes,
on the 2C. Richie's the other guy. Like Richie's fine. I still think he's feeling things out, which is normal. It's his first 2 games. Jared Bednar did say something where he'd like to see him just be a little bit too aggressive. I think he's maybe just a little bit too timid and not wanting to make a mistake.
Yeah.
And therefore he's not making a mistake, but he's not doing anything to progress, like in offense or anything like that. So I think that, you want to see a little bit more out of him and being, a little bit more active. I thought the third line in game against Columbus was fantastic. That was a little bit of a mixed match because they brought up Colton on the second line, who he had a good game. He almost a crossbar away from 2 goals in that game. But you had the line of, it was Wood, Kelly, and O'Connor. And I believe they had the most, as for a line, they had the most shots on goal, I think. I'm trying to look that up. But I like the makeup of this team.
I like Ivan. I like Ivan as well.
He's another one who's playing very well.
Yeah.
So it's the goalie position right now. You gotta get goals or saves when you need them at a big moment. And right now the Avs have not had them. And like I said, they did get that waiver pickup in Kaapo Kähkönen. I don't know how they're going to navigate this. I really don't know.
Should have waited to get Ville Husso.
Yeah, he just went on the wire.
I know.
Yeah, he's a little bit more expensive. So even if they didn't pick up Kaapo, I think I don't know if they would have picked up Husso just because of his numbers a little bit too high.
We can make a move.
They're addressing it. Well, you say they can make a move. Because that's the topic of conversation right now, right? Is everyone has just thrown in the white towel on Georgiev and move him. Why that is so difficult to do. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Bednar comments and more to get to with this game. And then we'll talk about the next game, which is Monday night when the Golden Boy Patrick Waugh returns to town.
A good goalie.
Oh, there it is. All right. Let's get our first break in and continue this conversation on the other side. All right. We got a new sponsor today, and that is Hims. And your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. You don't have the time to go to the doctor's office to get treated for ED. And through Hims, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside of your door. Hims is changing men's health care by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. And with hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED options that works for you. So start your free online visit today at hims.com/locked-on. That's HIMS.com/locked-on for your personalized ED treatment options. HIMS.com/locked-on. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products, which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. All right, so welcome back, and I think right now everyone is wanting to jump into the Avs need to make a move thing. Again, I am not there because it's 2 games into the season. It doesn't seem like Jared Bednar is there right now, but it's just addressing like the trade factor. Like, what are you going to get? Like, number one, it's very difficult because his value right now is very difficult to trade for what? For a number one goalie? Who's giving up a number one goalie 2 games into a season? Nobody is. So that's why it's so difficult to bring in a guy that would now be a number one goalie when what you're shipping out is not really playing up to number one goalie standards. So right there, that's why it's so difficult to do it at this stage in the season. That's why you let the season play out and see, and you have a more of a broad spectrum of games to go off. And then you have teams that are out of it that do have a number one goalie that are trying to unload. And that's when it happens. I'm not saying it does, but that's when it happens. 2 games into the season, you're not seeing trades like that, especially for a number one goalie.
Well, what's the AAV on that walrus from the commercials? Because I think that's about all the Avs are going to get. Yeah. I mean, and I hate to break it to Avs fans. It's like it's not getting better. It's only getting worse. So it's not like if you're sending him out, it's not like his value is going through the roof. Like, what are you going to get like after that performance? Like it's noticeable, and it's now starting to catch the ear of hockey media, where it's starting to get, it's just non-Avalanche circles. It's not just an Avalanche problem that we've always just kind of, pushed to the side and, oh, we'll deal with it. No, it's now running nationally, that it's now a problem in Colorado, and they have the numbers to prove it. So what are you going to get for Georgiev when everybody knows where the stench is coming from?
And obviously there is a money factor here and a cap crunch that the Avs are up against. And as far as Georgiev's number, he's on the low end for what's considered a number one goalie. So it would have to be more than him going out, which is really unfair to whoever else that is. You have to package some players here. If you wanted to go out and get a grade A number one starting goalie, there's going to be more than it can't be a 1-for-1, because what you're going to bring in money wise is not around where Georgiev is going to be.
So for
what, $1 million? That's, again, I mean, I guess it's a little bit better, but it's tough. It's tough. So I think the Avs realize like they are right now kind of stuck here. And you heard Jared Bednar say in his press conference, he's our guy. I don't know if I truly believe him, because like, what else is he going to say at game 2?
What is option B? What else do you
Annunen
say?
There's no other option right now.
That's the thing. Like, what is he supposed to say in that moment? You can't say, yeah, you're right, he's not great. Now, Justus. What kind of confidence does that bring any Avalanche fan to say, oh, it's now Justus?
That's going to your backup quarterback in week 2 of the NFL season. You've given up on your starter with 80 games to go.
Yeah.
So I get why Jared Bednar is saying like he's our guy. So I say I don't truly believe him, but I think he believes that right now, and I think he believes that Georgiev has the ability to turn it around. We have to see it, but it right now that's who they have to go with. They don't have any other options right now. And I think they will spin it and look at the times where he has turned it around. And it wasn't that long ago when he did, which was in the playoffs.
And
they just want to see a repeat of that.
That's what I was just about to say. They're shaping this up, and the rhetoric's already coming out where they're trying to make this a game 2 in the Winnipeg series moment for the rest of the season, where the team comes out and says, yeah, this is our goalie. Bednar said this is our goalie. That's what you're going to hear in the media. In any scrum, any microphone in the face of an Avalanche player, they're going to say, this is our goalie. They're going to rally around him because of the yips and what I was saying about him compacting. The team's going to get behind him, and they're going to have to push him back to the rest of the Winnipeg series and portions of that Dallas series. We're going to have to get that kind of performance back out of him.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, like, and this is this is sports. This is every single sport. Guys go through funks. Batters go through hitting slumps. You know what I mean? Yeah, you get the yips in golf. It's a mind game.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to get at it. He just needs a good game. He needs to have a really good game to turn just his mindset around and get out of that funk that he's in between his ears. And the Avs feel like he can do it. I don't know if it's bubbling over. Nathan MacKinnon just went off the rails at the end of that game. I think that was more on that penalty, which I didn't really agree with that penalty. The Avs were playing from behind. I didn't really put up too much of a stink about it because, the Avs were just playing from behind that entire game. They shouldn't have been in that position to begin with. I thought that was a tough penalty to take.
Yeah.
Right at the end, you had just scored that goal. It was rough. I think that's a tough call to make in that situation. But it was, and I think that's where, for MacKinnon, it just bubbled over and there was 10 seconds left when he got tossed. So it wasn't, the game was over by then because he had the penalty. But I like seeing that. Like, he's a fiery guy as it is. I like seeing that. I want that stuff to carry over constructively into the next game against the Islanders, which we'll just have to wait and see. Right now, people are kind of they're going to go into this game against the Islanders and just, if they give up a goal within the first 3 minutes, it's just going to be palms in the air and be like, here we go again. And now you're just going to be, is he going to get pulled for a third straight game? And do we have to utilize this offense, which is playing very well? Do we have to put all the pressure on them again to get us? Or is that going to be the thing this year? Outscoring the problems, which doesn't really work out too well.
Who would have thought this is what the 1A, 1B situation would look like this year?
What do you mean? Just
literally mid-game, a starter and a closer.
Well, that's the thing. Like you want to give Annunen when he plays full warm-ups, like he can get mentally ready knowing that he's the starter for that day. And that's 2 games where he just gets thrown in. So there's some people that don't want to put it completely on him because that's the case. He needs to be ready at the drop of a hat to go, but he's not fully warmed up. I'm not using that as an excuse. I'm just saying, like, it's a different mindset. It's a different mindset when you're just tapped on the shoulder in the middle of the games that you're in, and to come in and try to stop the bleeding compared to knowing at morning skate you're the guy. So I feel bad for him not having that opportunity yet, but Georgiev has had those opportunities and he's 0 for 2 so far. I don't know. I think things got to turn around. We'll see. We'll see what they do against the Islanders. And let's talk about that because that's his Patrick Waugh. It's his return to Denver since last time coaching the Avalanche so long ago. So we'll talk about that coming up next. All right, let's hear from FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, which is America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And I hope you didn't bet on the Broncos for this one. It was a rough weekend for Colorado sports, man.
Playing from behind just doesn't pay off for Colorado sports.
Honestly, I shut that game off at halftime. I'm like, I can't do this. It was just a bad day watching the Avs, and then the Broncos just looked so inept. I'm like, I'm done. I think I'm done for the weekend sportsing. I'm not sportsing like I used to use the FanDuel phrase. So you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That is $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. All you have to do is place a $5 bet over at FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. So how we were saying after game 1 against Vegas, you looked forward to Columbus coming in and maybe just getting your first win of the season against an opponent that's really not expected to do a ton this year. We all saw how that went. It's a little bit different for me anyway with the Islanders coming to town because I kind of like this team. They're not cream of the crop and they're not bottom feeders. They're kind of hovering in that like good to really good range of a hockey team where they do a lot of things well. And you don't know what you could get a team that comes in and looks like the team that's at the top of the scene. You're like, man, who is this team? Or you could get the complete opposite of that. I know it's only a couple games. I'm really going off of last year more than anything. But the team kind of really resembles a lot of what was there last year. They didn't do a ton in the offseason, but they're just a solid team. They're good offensively. They're good defensively. They have a good goalie tandem. The only thing that they struggled in last year was penalty kill. I think they were towards the bottom of the league in penalty kill, if not the worst. But since Waugh took over, they've been a much better team in all aspects. So you can almost throw that out the window because he's kind of implemented his game and his scheme during the whole offseason. And this team seems to have taken to it because they've played well since he took over. I think this is going to be a tough battle for the Avs because, Georgiev mentally, but the entire team mentally. And you have the Islanders coming in, maybe smelling a little bit of blood in the water with a goalie situation. I think this might be a tough game for the Avs. Can they win it? Absolutely. But I think it might be a little bit tougher than they think. Oh, hang on.
This is the perfect situation for the Colorado Avalanche. The New York Islanders, winless. The Avalanche, winless.
Yeah.
The Avalanche could turn things around, the mentality, because again, like we mentioned, this is all mental for the Avalanche right now. For them to finally get in the win column against Patrick Waugh, where Jared Bednar looks across the rink, sees Patrick Waugh and says, "I'm your god now." I took over. This is what you left. We have a Stanley Cup. We have this team rolling, and this is where they change. Varlamov is in goal. Like this is the kind of stuff you want. And it sets up perfectly. Like, yes, you would have wanted to see the Avs turn things around from a mental standpoint against Columbus, who honestly is an inferior opponent. New York has always been that aggravating. They're never great. They're never bad. They're just aggravating. They're like Minnesota of the East. And this is a good game because they match up well with the Avalanche. And this is a really good game for the Avalanche to turn things around. And it would just make it even more fulfilling to do it against Patrick Waugh. And I really, especially seeing Nathan MacKinnon, like you mentioned, going into the locker room, that fired up. I want to be a fly on the wall for that locker room talk with Nathan MacKinnon that mad and knowing this team knows, hey, we got to stop. This has to get corrected today because you don't want to look up and say, 0-2 and you played Vegas at Columbus. This team's better than that. And they know that. And they're going to, this is the game they need to rectify everything. This is where you go 80-2 starting against the Islanders.
Yeah. I say, Islanders are probably smelling blood in the water with how the goalie situation has been for the Avs. But the Avs are not just going to sit back, and just be like, well, no. Like that team's not built this way. So in that aspect, the Islanders should be like, oh crap, like we're going into a lion's den here because it has not started out how they wanted to, and they want to correct that quickly.
And they know their head coach, and they know there's some personal stuff there, and they want to conquer that, especially Nathan MacKinnon.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Benner has said that Georgiev would be the starter. I think he already said that for this game. So, and there's two ways to look at that. You can say like, why? Or you can say they got to get him on the right track.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of in that camp as bad as the first two games have been. I'm kind of in that camp of like, yeah, you have no other option. You really, your other option is go to Annunen, but Georgiev hasn't played a full game yet. Let's get to that point. Let's get to a full game first, where even if you lose it like 2-1, okay, we can spin that, and that's at least a step in the right direction. Cannot have these 6 and 8 goal games anymore.
It was going to be coming to the Ball Arena. It's going to be like the bad guy from D1, the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah,
like it's like there's emotional things on the line here, and there's honestly, Utah, for the love of God, is at the top of the West.
They're
Like
hot.
this shouldn't be. Like Nashville, yes, they're down there in the bottom with Colorado, but things have to turn around, and the
Yeah.
Avalanche know it, and this is the time to do it because we talk about stretches. This is not how you want to start a 10-game stretch 0-2 because it doesn't get easier from here.
Yeah. I don't know if you watched that Utah Hockey Club Rangers game. Game of the year so far. Game of the year so far.
Why would I watch either one of those teams?
And that's my East Coast team. And they lost in overtime. Still phenomenal game. Unbelievable game. Over on Subtext, some people weighing in on everything. This is from Craig. At this point, there's not a lot I can say. Bednar said they are standing behind Georgiev. We are only 2 games into the season, so it's still very early. It does seem the goalies are stressing. If they do relax and get into the zone, that could resolve the issue. If we get to the end of October and the team hasn't won at least 6 games, I would be extremely concerned. At this point, all we can do is wait and see. He did give a sound check for the last game. Limp Bizkit break stuff.
Oh, please inject that into my veins.
I can't go by that's not a bad one, Craig. Good stuff there. Good pull there. Kyle said, I gave the Office reference. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. I blame the New Jersey sponsorship and the design of Georgie's mask for the faulting here.
You know what? Is Mercury in retrograde again? We'll do that too.
And then he said Capo has the stage set for him. He's being held up at immigration right now, I guess is why he's not with the team, but he's gonna get an opportunity. You know what I mean? He's gonna get it. Let's see what he does with it. And if he turns out a good performance, that's just gonna lead to another start. So if he starts getting a collection of good, and here's the thing, like people, we did it with Annunen. We wanted to turn to Annunen as he's the savior. How's that working out for you right now? So if you want to turn to Capo Kakinen, and it's like, well, he is a waiver wire pickup. This isn't like Shesterkin we're getting here, people. Like if he was so good, why was he on waivers to begin with? But it's a system thing. Does he have to be on a new team? Remains to be seen. He's gonna get a chance though. He's gonna get a chance.
You get the waiver goalie. Why is he on waivers? You got the 1A who has been pulled twice. Why is he 1A?
Yeah. I don't know. Coy, he came up with a sound check too. Fix You by Coldplay.
Ooh.
Liking these guys. Good ones. So it's just where we're at. I know, again, people, it is 2 games, but it's as bad of a start as you could want in terms of outcomes. It's not bad top to bottom. It's not. Like there are really good things you can pull out of a lot of good things that you can pull out of what the Avalanche are doing through 2 games. It's just the most important one, and the one that everybody had concern about going into the season has not got off to a good start. Therefore, it's maybe a little bit of panic mode, maybe a little bit too much into panic mode right now, but I get it. And that's why you play 82 games and not 2. Let's see what he can do against the Islanders. It's a better opponent than Columbus. I'm still you just got to have some faith here. Hey, maybe that's one. We'll go with Limp Bizkit in that one. Faith. Why not?
Yeah. 2 out of 3 facets of the Avalanche they look good.
Yeah.
But you've got 3 out of 3 of your last 2 opponents that are gooder.
Yeah. Like, again, I'd like to, after game 1 against Vegas, like we should have been talking more about the Mikko hat trick and the McKinnon 900 points. And I really wish I was talking more about how like the young guys are playing. That spinorama move that McKinnon did that would have been the goal of the year. A fantastic save on Columbus's part. Just beautiful spin pass. That's like the slam dunk in hockey. Just pulling off a move like that right on the tape of Cale. Beautiful. How do you do that? And great save, but that's the stuff I want to be talking about. But
was Wagner dirty or clean? Like that's
right.
That's the kind of takeaways you want to have from these games, but it's central focus on one gentleman.
Exactly. So, that's where we're at, and we got to own it, and we have to get better. And I know they're all thinking the same thing, especially Georgiev. So, still throw my weight behind him and root for him because he's wearing the colors. So let's see what he can do. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about it. Hopefully they can get their first win of the season. Until then, thank you everybody for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast, and you just made it through another day where Sidney Crosby's one day closer to being in an Avalanche sweater.
Can he play goalie?